Welcome once again to Commander by Danon. Today's video came about due to a comment from a viewer. Normally I prioritize Patreon-sponsored content, but every once in a while someone makes a comment that gets the old brain juices flowing. Today's video is going to be on a topic near and dear to my heart: fun in Commander, and its relationship to the bracket system. Also, and I know it's annoying to keep hearing this, but statistically if I don't ask you to like and subscribe, the video gets fewer subscribers. I've said it before, but I don't think I've said it enough. Fun is important in any game. In fact, you could say that it is the defining parameter. If a game isn't fun, why are you playing it? But what is fun for some isn't fun for others. Fun is relative, which is one of the reasons I love the new bracket system so much. But even with that new bracket system, having a conversation beforehand is important. Let's talk about an experience I had recently at a new LGS I just discovered, and how it could have gone a lot worse. But before we get to that conversation, a quick word from new sponsor, T-Fury. Every day, T-Fury has new designs that are on sale, but as you can see, they also have a great collection of other shirts. Anime, D&D, 80s retro, comic books, Lord of the Rings, there are thousands of shirts to choose from. I've been a loyal customer of theirs for 10 years, and I'm so happy to finally be sponsored by them. Click the link down below to see new designs and to add to your geek wardrobe. So, the other night, my two boys both had work. One had to be dropped off at 8 p.m. and the other had to be picked up at 9 p.m., so I had about an hour to kill. Fortunately, I'd just heard about a card shop that was running Commander that night and wanted to check it out, so this seemed like the perfect time. I found a pod that was just shuffling up, asked them what bracket they were playing, and pulled out an appropriate deck. It was a deck that aired earlier this week, my Kraven Regna Aristocrats deck. I explained to everyone that yes, this is an Aristocrats deck, but I'm not running any Grave Pact effects. The only forced sacrifice effect I have in the deck is Meat Hook Massacre, which is a board wipe. I wound up with a very good hand and ended up winning the game. That's not to say it wasn't a close match. At any moment, my opponents could have finished me off. If I hadn't have removed an equipment that made one opponent's enormous Tarian Mauler unblockable, I would have died. If I didn't have a bunch of blockers thanks to Regna and Oketra's Monument, I would have died. And if I didn't take out the Igra player when I did, we all would have died. So it was a close match. Afterwards, I confirmed a few things with my opponents. First of all, I'd never played with anyone at that table before. I'd never met these men in my life. I explained that my deck did have one infinite combo, but I only use that when people are being mean. Secondly, my goal is to drain everyone at the same time, not single someone out. I asked if they felt oppressed by my deck, and they said no. They said my deck felt relentless, which is appropriate for Orzhov, but they never felt overwhelmed or that I'd lied during our turn 0 conversation. My biggest concern was that they all had fun. Well, since the Igra player did get to eat someone with his giant kitty, he was happy. And since the Jeskai player got to combo off and have a giant Tarian Mauler, he was happy. Which brings me back to my main point. Fun in Commander. The primary goal of any game is to have fun, and in my experience, the most fun you can have in Commander is when your deck does the thing. What is the thing? It is whatever your deck is designed to do. If your deck is designed to take infinite turns, and you get your combo set up and show everyone how you're taking infinite turns, your deck has done the thing. If your deck wants to sacrifice creatures to drain your opponents, and you have an army of 1/1 warriors and you sacrifice them to your demon commander, your deck has done the thing. If your deck wants to create a flight of dragons that dominate the skies and you swing out with Lathless, Uthvar, and a host of enormous flying fire-breathing lizards, your deck has done the thing. Doing the thing doesn't necessarily mean winning, it just means your deck has performed its primary function. Let's talk about that in a bracket setting. Recently I released a video with a bracket 1 deck based around Bakano. If Waffles, the patron who requested the deck, is able to show off a bit of the story of Bakano with that deck, his deck did the thing. One of the more famous meme decks out there is Ladies Looking Left. The entire deck is full of art featuring women who are looking towards the left side of the card. If someone notices the theme of the deck, then the deck did the thing. Bracket 1 is all about showcasing a fun build or building entirely with the theme in mind. Your goal isn't to win, your goal is to tell a story or showcase a theme. This is also the bracket where you can build an otherwise illegal commander. Always wanted to build a deck led by the BFM? Well, here you go. And if you get to the point of actually casting your commander, then your deck did the thing. From my experience, bracket 2 decks tend to be budget builds or just people starting out in Commander. We all had to start somewhere, and Bracket 2 is the perfect starting point. You can pick up a pre-constructed deck from your local game store or order one on Amazon. If you are going to order off of Amazon, make sure you use my link down below so I get a small commission. But I'd still prefer you to buy it at your local game store though, because without those, Magic wouldn't exist. That is not hyperbole. Magic would not exist without the network of hobby and game stores that gave it a home in the 90s when Magic was just starting out. They kept the hobby going, so if you're lucky enough to have a good store near you, one you feel welcome at, by all means you should spend your money there to support them and your hobby at the same time. Yes, it is more expensive, deal with it. Without that LGS, you and dozens, if not hundreds, of other players wouldn't have a place to go, and unlike Amazon, they have overhead to worry about. So what does fun mean at a Bracket 2 table? Your deck is trying to do the thing. If you have a landfall deck, you want to have a few landfall triggers. If you have a vehicle-themed commander deck, you want to swing your vehicles at people. If you have an equipment-based commander deck, you want to equip your creatures and swing out. At Bracket 2, winning isn't the focus, but you still want your deck to interact with the board. It is part of the reason I mention my checklist in every video. Speaking of which, in order to build a functional commander deck, you need lots of different pieces, which is why I try to rely on my handy-dandy checklist. 50 mana sources, usually split between 37 lands and 13 pieces of ramp, 10 pieces of card advantage, 8 to 10 pieces of spot removal, 2 to 3 board wipes, 2 pieces of graveyard hate, and 1 sudden I win card. If your opponents are overwhelming you, blowing up your stuff, or attacking you with unblockable creatures, and you don't have any spot removal, board wipes, or even a piece of stacks to encourage them to attack elsewhere, that is not the table's fault. Your deck needs more interaction. You don't need a ton. No one's telling you to play control when you just want to make a board full of dinosaurs. But part of having fun is having the ability to play the game. And if you're unable to play, you're not having fun. For example, the Immortal Sun is the archenemy of all Super Friends decks. Planeswalkers are shut down by that card, and if you have a Super Friends deck, you're basically unable to play the game. So if you're building a Planeswalker deck, you want to include some artifact removal. But we're in Bracket 2, and a lot of the players in this archetype are new to the game, so they probably don't know that those cards exist. The first time Timmy the Dinosaur player encounters overwhelming splendor, they probably freaked out. But in order to play their beloved Gishath deck, they decided to add Naturalize, Return to Nature, and Beast Within. Pretty soon, they realized their deck had become upgraded. Upgraded, or Bracket 3, is the most common way to play Commander. We start getting into more combos, but several groups will ban infinite combos at this bracket. Game changers are allowed, and more powerful strategies are expected. The problem with banning all infinite combos is that, in any deck running enough good cards, you can find a 3 or 4 card infinite combo. Flickering Gaunty an infinite number of times in order to exile everyone's library, for example. Once again, fun at this stage is also about having your deck do the thing. If I'm playing the Locust God and I never get to make a single insect token, or if Cutestuff is playing Gishath and she never gets to swing out and flip over an army of dinosaurs, neither of us is going to feel like we got to play our deck. Now, we don't need to win. Assuming all things are equal, you have a 25% chance of winning any particular game of Commander. So keep that in mind. If you go to your LGS and sit down at a Bracket 3 table, play 4 rounds and only win 1 of them, that means you did just fine. Bracket 3 decks are meant to be the balance between casual and powerful. So fun for them is occasionally crushing your opponents, but not every game. You're here for vibes just as much as you're here for epic gameplay. But some of us have an itch. We want something more. Bracket 4, or optimized, decks play for blood. We're going to play fast, high-value cards and ruthless strategies. I cast Kalia and then Armageddon. I don't care that you don't have lands, it doesn't matter that I don't either. Every turn I'm going to be slamming down a big scary dragon, angel, or demon. I will run the meanest combos in the game. Decree of Silence with Solemnity. I will turn 1 Thoracle combo. Sometimes, if I have the right cards, of course. I will generate infinite mana on turn 3 and fireball the entire table, while holding up mana to counterspell anyone who tries to stop me. At this level of play, fun is had when everyone is doing well. Beating someone whose deck isn't performing isn't fun. Unless they deserve it, of course. But all things being equal, fun happens when your deck is doing awesome things. Winning is a big part of that. You did build your deck to win after all. But even if you lose, so long as your deck did the thing, you're not completely sad. The only time a Bracket 4 game isn't fun is when someone wins too quickly, which happens sometimes. In my experience, the biggest difference between Bracket 4 and Bracket 5 is that you can still have some pet strategies in Bracket 4. You can still have a bit of whimsy and silliness. Going back to the deck that infinitely flickers Gonti, if you're running tons of tutors and free counterspells, that's now a Bracket 4 deck. But because you're winning with a silly combo, it won't be a CEDH deck. The only thing that matters to a CEDH player is winning. Yes, you play the game because you love it, and seeing others combo off and win is fun, especially if it's something new. But seeing 15 Thoracle combos every day gets old after a while. So you come up with ways to stop the Thoracle combo. Maybe Rule of Law. Maybe Stifle Bird. Maybe, if you can't beat them, you join them. CEDH is ever evolving because the best strategy with the best cards changes from set to set. Sure, we have a ton of cards already from the history of Magic, but every year at least a few get printed that are game changers. Take Vivi for example, who goes infinite with a slice of bread. Are you honestly going to tell me that Vivi didn't affect CEDH at all? I know a lot of content creators who experimented with him in the Command Zone last year. So what will this year bring? What fresh new horrors will the Star Trek set bring us? Or will the Prismari constructed commander deck bring us another Veyron? I know, she's not exactly a CEDH commander, but she is a lot of fun. So how do you have fun while playing Commander? What about this game is the most fun for you? Leave a comment below. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor cutestuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, she can be reached at cutestuff.edits@gmail.com. Link is down below. If you're looking for ways to support the channel directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/Danon. You can have a video made or just ask for help building or tuning a deck list. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons: Waffles, Jiraiya, Marcus, Brett, Roxy, Alex, Congo, Robert Pye, Kazaris, Patrick, Tiz, Art, Richard, Boomy, Oscar, Dustin, Golden Walker, Captain Hammer, Slates, Mr. Salty, Daniel, and Zombie. You guys are awesome. I post new Commander deck videos every weekday, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of new videos. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time on Commander by Danon.